Hare Krishna. Welcome for the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Before we get started, let's recite the prayers, the Mangalacharan prayers for praying and requesting the blessings of our previous acharyas, our spiritual masters, Krishna, and other devotees, so that we can understand these topics better. So we will start with two prayers or two verses for Srila Prabhupada and then follow through with the rest of them. These are the verses that are mentioned at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita in the introduction. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Okay, chapter 6. Wonderful. So before we start chapter 6, I just wanted to say that if you're watching this on YouTube at any later point of time, it will be best if you find a quiet place with 2 hours of time in hand and have the book, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, this is my copy. I think the later printings are having a yellow color by Srila Prabhupada, and have that book in front of you and go through it verse by verse as we are going through in the class. Just as if you were, doing the online class. So with that, first of all, let me ask everyone, did you all do the homework? There was a homework given. Anybody remembers there was a homework? So there was a homework. Yeah, go ahead. Who was saying?
Yeah, there's Mahesh. Yes. Gone
Go
through
ahead.
that 14-minute audio.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Gone through the 14-minute audio.
Yeah, the 14-minute audio. That's right. It's called The Three Stone Carriers. It's an MP3 that has been loaded on the Gita PDX URL. It's tinyurl.com/Gita PDX. PDX stands for Portland. So GITA PDX, all small letters. So please have listen to that. Its last chapter was all about attachments, and specifically what prompted me to share that with you was some questions that related to, can we make spiritual progress as well as kind of, be in our material keep our material attachments with us. And I thought I'll just share that because that has some very nice learnings to have from there. Okay, so if you haven't done that, please go ahead and do it now, or as in like after the class sometime this week. So this week we will be dealing with questions after we go through the chapter, because there were not any significant or any very deep level. There were some very nice questions, but not those that I would want to spend a lot of time on. And so I want to do the chapter first, and then we'll do the Q&A subsequently. All right. So chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. It's a beautiful chapter, and it's a very, very practical chapter, very practical, and we'll make it practical for everyone. So it is the most detailed description of focusing the mind. Our mind, or mana, mind has several words that can be used for the mind. So mana, chitta, atma. Atma has several meanings depending on context. It could be the soul, it could be the mind, it could be the jiva. So that needs to be understood according to contexts. But mana and chitta are definitely related to, or meaning the mind. So controlling and focusing the mind is the main essence of this chapter. Let me show you a quick summary of this chapter, just to kind of give you an overview of what this chapter is all about, and then we will go into the verses. All right, share screen. Okay, hopefully you can see the screen. Can you? Okay, great. Somebody said yes, so that's good. Thank you. So mind, as you can see, is mana, chitta, atma, etc. But the focus of this chapter is to focus the mind on Paramatma. As we had read earlier, the supreme absolute truth has three levels of realization: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. And Bhagwan is the most complete, the all-encompassing understanding of this absolute truth. Below that is Paramatma, and below that is the Brahman. That will become very evident. It was already evident earlier, and it will become more and more evident. And especially in this chapter, this sort of hierarchy, or these three levels will become evident. However, the goal of dhyana, or meditation as it is to meditate on the Paramatma within our heart. This Paramatma is resident in every living entity's heart, as well as in every non-living entity as well, which means within every atom in the whole universe. So Paramatma is not just within living entities, it's also in every atom of the universe. And realizing, or being able, so for living entities, and especially for human beings, which is all of us, now Paramatma realization, all of this does not apply to cats and dogs. That is why human life is so precious, because in human life, we can ask the question, who is God? Who am I? And what is my relationship with him? These are very important questions, especially for, at least for people who are beginning in their spiritual journey. Who am I is a question. They may not care about God or relationship with God just yet, but at least who am I is a question. That's a very fundamental question. And also about what is this universe? So the goal of Dhyana Yoga process is to realize, is to see the Paramatma within our heart. That is the goal of Dhyana Yoga. And then uh, when one is able to see the Paramatma within the heart, one is liberated, attains moksha, and goes into the spiritual world. Now, the process of Dhyana Yoga is a little different from Bhakti Yoga. Now, from the next chapter onwards, we will be going straight into pure Bhakti Yoga. This is the last chapter before we get into our discussion of Bhakti Yoga, which is going to be extremely sweet. We already took off. The aeroplane took off, or the space shuttle took off. Now, in the seventh chapter, we'll go into space. We'll go into the zone. So this is sort of just the last chapter before we go there. So Dhyana Yoga as such is one that is done by one's own effort. A person applies his own effort to focus the mind, and after a long amount of time, or after many, many lifetimes, uh, typically, as is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, you will see this many aneka janma. It will come in 6.45 or 6.46 at the very end of this chapter. One makes progress towards dhyana, or attaining the successful completion of dhyana. Then one sees the Paramatma within the heart. But it is by our own effort. In bhakti, the difference is that we request Lord's help. We request God's help. Please handhold me. Please take me forward. That aspect is missing in Dhyana Yoga. Now, one of the byproducts, this is where I'm going into my third bullet, mystic powers. As one continues to make progress in Dhyana Yoga, one, not at the final stage, but at some intermediate stage, one attains certain mystic powers. Mystic powers are powers there are several mystic powers that are mentioned in various um, tantric books. Like one is called Mahima Shakti. Mahima Shakti means you can make the body very big. The body can expand. So demons used to use this, their body would become very big. Or Laghima Shakti. Laghima means become very small, very tiny, and almost invisible. Um, or, one could become afloat. One could just rise up as if there is no gravity. So these are all siddhis, or mystic powers, tantric mystic powers that are that automatically come when one becomes advanced in Dhyana Yoga. Now, this is a good thing. Probably somebody would say, wow, I can have all these so-called supernatural powers, but it's a very there's a big downside to it. And the downside is that it completely could distract the yogi, because these mystic powers can be used for one's own sense gratification. And many demoniac people, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, Kamsa, and many demons, they would perform this process of Dhyana Yoga, not Bhakti Yoga, because if they ask, they're not devoted to God, but they're performing Dhyana. And then they attain these mystic powers and they stop there. They don't go forward. They don't complete the whole journey to see Paramatma within one's heart. And once they gain these mystic powers, then they use that to oppress others, to become more, to enjoy more sense gratification, which is like, everybody follow me, I am God. And then eventually their fall down occurs. But this is one of the byproducts, and that's just what is in the path. Now there are some very successful dhyana yogis as well, who have very successfully performed dhyana yoga. And a very good example of a successful dhyana yogi is Dhruva Maharaj, or a little boy Dhruva. I assume many of you have heard the story of Dhruva. Can I see by a show of hands on the Zoom as to how many of you have heard of Dhruva? let's see. Okay, a few have, and maybe more. So Dhruva was this very young boy.
దాంట్లో ఎక్కువ. స్వప్న దాంట్లో.
One second, let me go ahead and do something here. Okay, never mind. So this young boy, he was the son of a, okay, hold on one second. All right. Okay. Now go ahead and lower all hands. Okay. Okay. And unmute. Okay. Okay. And please try to keep yourself muted as far as possible, unless you have a question. So Dhruva, was a young boy. His father was the king, and he had two wives. And one of the wives did not, the stepmother of Dhruva did not treat him very well, and he got very hurt. Long story short, he got so hurt that he went to the forest. Actually, what happened was Dhruva wanted to sit in his father's lap, and the other queen did not like that. And she was the favorite queen of the king. So she prevented Dhruva from sitting in his father's lap and said, you don't have the right to sit in your father's lap. Only my son can sit in the king's lap. And next time, in next life, you take birth from my womb, and then you can sit. This life you can't. And he was very hurt. He knew he's my father. I should have equal, privilege to go to my father. So he went to his mother, and his mother said, his mother was a very simple lady. And she said that, the best solution is to focus on God, on Krishna. And he really took that to heart, and he said, okay, I will focus on Krishna. And he left his house. He went to the forest. He met Narad Muni there, who gave him advice. And this young boy, Dhruva, focused his mind entirely on Lord Vishnu. And so strongly he focused his mind that ultimately Lord Vishnu came out of his heart, the Paramatma, and actually he could see him and talk to him. And when his intention was to ask the Lord for permission to sit in his father's lap, and also to get a kingdom bigger than his father. But when he saw Lord Vishnu, he said, I came here to ask as if for pieces of broken glass. But now, having seen you, I have got diamonds. So I have no more desires. Just by seeing you, all my desires have been fulfilled. I don't need any kingdom. I don't want anything. And of course, the Lord blessed him with devotion, because Dhruva was a great devotee. And he's anyway got a great kingdom, but that was not something that was the primary motive anymore for Dhruva. So that is the successful completion of Dhyana Yoga. And as I said, there are many cases of unsuccessful completions of Dhyana Yoga as well. And there is example of Narad Muni, etc., and all that. So this process of Dhyana Yoga is very difficult to perform and takes many, many lifetimes. But the focus of, so that's all I wanted to share on this slide. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. So the focus of this chapter will be to see how we can dovetail the process of Dhyana Yoga towards bhakti. And this chapter contains very wonderful instructions of focusing the mind. And we will apply those instructions to Bhakti Yoga. How to perform Bhakti Yoga, because Bhakti Yoga to a certain extent also involves focusing our mind on Krishna. But the difference is that we don't have to depend all on ourselves for a successful outcome. All we have to do is to try sincerely and genuinely and pray to Krishna to come help us. That makes Dhyana Yoga into Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so this chapter of Bhakti Yoga is still very relevant for us. It is completely irrelevant if you want to do Dhyana Yoga as it is, for the sake of Dhyana Yoga. But it is 100% relevant if you want to dovetail Dhyana Yoga into Bhakti. That means relevant or irrelevant, I was talking in terms for us. And we will see towards the end of the chapter, specifically verses 6.33 and 34. After listening to the 32 verses, 1 to 32, even Arjuna, the mighty warrior who had all these wonderful powers, he had all the Siddhi powers himself. He had all these big weapons that he obtained from Lord Shiva, from many other sources. He was preparing for battle. He did not sleep all those 13 years when he was in the exile. He did such strong austerities which we cannot do at all. He says at the end of 6th chapter, this Dhyana Yoga is impossible for me. I can't do it. I can control the wind. He says, I have mighty weapons that can control the wind, but I cannot control my mind. So when Arjun can't do it, our case, at least in my personal case, is very, very hopeless. And that is when Krishna starts talking about bhakti. So we will see this chapter. There are two ways we could see this chapter just as it is. Here is Dhyana Yoga. Go try it. I'll see you after a few lifetimes. We'll probably both be unsuccessful by then. Or we can treat this chapter as dovetailing into bhakti. So we will take the latter approach, and that is the approach which Srila Prabhupada has also taken in the chapter at many places. So let's start. Now, give me 1 second. Change of glasses. So, in theory, the most detailed description of Dhyana Yoga as is given by the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So if you are really interested, or somebody is really interested in understanding the depths of Dhyana Yoga itself, that is the place to go. And we will cover a little bit detail about it in today's class. However, so there are the term Dhyana Yoga is synonymous with Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga, Ashtanga, 8. Ashta means 8, Anga means limbs. So there are 8 limbs of this yoga. Dhyana Yoga is also called by the name Ashtanga Yoga. And we will see what those 8 limbs are and go into some of those details. However, those 8 limbs in sequence are not described in this chapter by Lord Krishna. They are described at an overall integrated and a contextual level. So I'll just wanted to make that part clear. But in the class, I will explain it. I'll make an attempt to explain the Patanjali system a little bit more, just for the curious people and just for the sake of knowledge. Okay. All right. So let's start with the verses of the 6th chapter with that introduction. So verses number 1 and 2. So a large part of the first 4 verses kind of is taking off from where the 5th chapter left off. It's the highest stages of Nishkama Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And that is where we start with Dhyana Yoga. So in the first 2 verses, there is a sort of a definition of what is a sannyasi. Sannyasi means renouncer, who has renounced everything material. And what is sannyasa? Sannyasi and sannyas. So I'll I'll read most of the verses, or we'll see how that goes, but I'll at least start with that. So text number 1, Dhyana Yoga. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So this is telling who is a sannyasi. So a sannyasi is one who is in the renounced order of life, that is sannyasi, but one who is unattached to the fruits of his work. So it's not that he's not doing work. He is simply unattached to the fruits of the work. That's all. It says here, anashritah karma phalam. So karma phala is the fruit of work. Anashrita. Ashrita means taking shelter. Anashrita means does not take shelter, which means he is not dependent on the fruits of the work. That is a sannyasi, not someone who lights no fire and performs no duty. Okay, so not somebody who's not abandoning the work itself. So this is a clear definition of sannyasi in the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita does not subscribe to the definition of sannyasi who gives up work altogether. Sannyasi means do the work, but do not be attached to the result or to the fruit. And that we have also read in previous verses. Next verse. What is called renunciation you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So again, renouncing the desire for sense gratification is mentioned. Now this, why is Lord defining the term sannyasi? Because he will be using it in the next few verses, especially in 6.4. You will see that Krishna will use sannyasi. So you first define the term and then you use it. That's how you do, you write any document. If there are terms that you want to use later, you define them up front. So this is the sannyasi that Krishna wants to talk about. Okay, so this is Krishna's meaning of sannyasi. Let's remember that. Now, in 6.3, Krishna is talking about two stages of people. The first one, so 6.3 now. For one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, eightfold yoga system is Ashtanga Yoga, Ashta Anga, 8 limbs. So for one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So two stages of progress in Dhyana Yoga are described. The first stage is what is known as Aruruksha stage. So if you look at the Sanskrit, it says Arurukshor Muner Yogam Karma Karanam Uchyate. So Aruruksha is the beginner stage. And the advanced stage is called Arudha. So, and then it says Yoga Arhuda Tasyaiva Shama Karanam Uchyate. So Arudha. So Aruruksha and Arudha. Aruruksha has to do some external work. Arudha is always inward focused, is always focused in his self. So those are the two stages. That's why it is said for the neophyte, which Srila Prabhupada is translating neophyte as Aruruksha. Work is said to be the means, which means there are external, he is externally engaged. But for the Arudha stage, the more advanced or elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So he is focused inward. Externally, he has ceased all work. Now is a good time for me to introduce these 8 limbs, the Ashtanga Yoga aspect. So here we go. So this picture I have taken from somewhere from internet, but the limbs, 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga are clearly shown here. So what are the 8 limbs? It goes like this, from left to right. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So what is the meaning of these? Let's look at the meaning. What do these mean? So Yama means typically the moral codes. So there are 5 sub-limbs of Yama: Ahimsa, Satya, Brahmacharyam, Asteya, and Aparigraha. So we will talk about these things, but these are the moral codes, like Ahimsa, non-violence, Satyam, being truthful, etc. Then there is Niyama. Niyama means regulation or discipline, a disciplined way of life. So there are 5 sublimbs of niyamas as well. They are called shaucha, means cleanliness. Santosha means contentment or satisfaction with what we have. Tapa means austerity or discipline. Swadhyaya, swadhyaya means self-study of scriptures. And Ishvara Pranidhana, so which is to surrender to Ishvara, Prana Dhana, considering the Ishwar to be our Prana Dhana, which means surrendering to the Ishvara. So that is, these are the niyamas. Asanas, there are many types of asanas. As per the Patanjali system, there are 84 asanas. And this is the sort of the most common, form. If you say, hey, do you do yoga? We meet so many people on the street when we distribute books. We say, here's a book on yoga. And they say, yeah, I know yoga. I know all the asanas and I do. So it's mainly like exercises. But as you can see here, those yogasanas are just one of the 8 limbs. Yoga is more than just asanas. Anyway, there are 84 main asanas in the Patanjali system, and they are divided into many categories like Surya Namaskara and many others. I'm not an expert in all those asanas. I do my simple exercise like walking in the neighborhood and some treadmill sometimes and just basic things to keep myself, healthy. Then comes pranayama. Pranayama is breath control, controlling the breathing. Now, in the last chapter, we saw some description of somebody who is breathing and keeping the air within the nostrils and not breathing. And all those are very, very complex forms of pranayama. There are 8 types of pranayama as per the Patanjali system. I don't know all the list. There is things like Kapala Bharati, Bhastrika, Anuloma Viloma, and all these things are there. So various kinds of breath control mechanisms. So now these 4 are the ones which are known as the ones meant for Aruruksha stage or the beginner stage. And as you can see in all of these things, there is something external. There is an external component to these things. You have to do something. Yama, like ahimsa, satyam, brahmacharyam, which means practicing celibacy, asteya, which means not a hoarding mentality. You don't hoard stuff, you don't deprive others from getting something rightful, and only for yourself you keep things. And aparigraha means not being greedy. So there is some external activity involved in yama, niyama as well. A lot of external activity in niyama. Asana, absolutely it's external. And pranayama is also external activity, breath control. So these are the ones that are mentioned in 6.3 as the ones for Aruruksha at the beginner level. Now the next 4 are for the more advanced level, and these are all inward focused. There is no external aspect in the next 4. The next one is pratyahara. Pratyahara means withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. So if there is a sense object, you withdraw, and completely withdraw your senses. Like we had the verse in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse number 59, like a tortoise, whenever he sees danger, he withdraws his limbs and covers himself with the shell. So similarly, when anything, let's say you are in a conversation with someone and somebody starts talking about some bad thing, criticizing someone, or just saying something that you don't want to hear, just leave from there, which means withdraw your senses. Or you're on the internet and some pop-up comes with something bad, don't be tempted to click on it. Just close it immediately. You have to have that discrimination to close, to withdraw your senses. That is pratyahar, to withdraw your senses from sense objects. Dharana means concentration, deep concentration. Dharana, focus, absolutely focused. And in the pure Patanjali or the Dhyana Yoga system, one puts the focus on the chakras. There, the body has several chakras, so which are known as the spiritual centers in the body. So you focus on those chakras and you open up each chakra one by one. So that is also inward. That is this dharana stage. And not finally, the next or the last but one, the penultimate stage is that of dhyana, which is absorption or meditation, complete absorption in the self. Now in the dhyana system, one is supposed to absorb oneself in trying to see or seek the Paramatma within the heart. And samadhi is the final stage, when you have actually been able to see the Paramatma within yourself. And then that is the state of absolute bliss. That is the state of attainment of the goals. Attainment. So one is completely satisfied, and we will see some descriptions. There is just sheer happiness and bliss, satisfaction, and attainment of the supreme, or the state of self-realization. So as you can see, pratyahar, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi are all focused inward. There is no external activity. So those were the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. I'll stop sharing here. And we will go back to 6.3, where Krishna is saying that in this 8-fold yoga system, for neophytes, work is said to be the means, and for those who are elevated, cessation of material activities is said to be the means. Now, that does not mean cessation of internal activities, cessation of external activities. Okay. Now, 6.4. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So he gives up sense gratification and he gives up fruitive activities. Both of these things are given up so that you can advance in the process of yoga. Now in the highest stage, one is giving up all activities, even breathing. So it's a very, very advanced stage, but this is the process that is mentioned. Okay, 6.5. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So here, this one and the next one, I'll go ahead and read the next one as well. For him who has conquered the mind, this is 6.6. For one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So the mind, in these 2 verses, the power of the mind is being described. That the mind is the tool that you use to do dhyana. So if the mind can be focused, then dhyana is possible. If the mind is not focused or not in one's control, then one is in a will remain in a material stage and will go through the cycles of happiness, distress, and just pretty much lead a more sophisticated but animalistic life. So um, in this in these two verses, the power of the mind is being described, and in many places um, the mind is referred to like a driver of a car, and the soul is like a passenger. Okay, now when you are sitting in an Uber or a taxi cab, who tells where you should go, the driver or the passenger? The passenger says, I want to go here, and the cab driver is supposed to take you there. Now, if you're the passenger, you sit in the car, and the cab driver says, I'm going to take you somewhere, wherever I want. Then that's not a very good situation for the passenger. The passenger then becomes in control of the driver, and he does not attain his objective of where he wants to go. He is in captivity of the driver. That is a rogue driver. He is a driver gone rogue. So through a long time of conditioning, our mind has become like a rogue driver. The soul wanted it to go somewhere else, towards God, towards Krishna. The mind said, no, 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 I'm going to take you towards sense gratification, all the good stuff that you are missing out in life, all the fun stuff. Let's go have that. And the soul then becomes more and more dull. He loses the taste. The soul forgets the taste of what it is to be in the pure state of consciousness, and becomes very dull, like a battered passenger, and just keeps going wherever the mind keeps taking the soul. So um, that is when the mind has become the enemy. But when the mind is the friend, it goes where the soul wants to go. And then the soul says, I want to go here. The mind says, okay, on this route, there is a traffic jam. I have a better route for you. I'll get you faster there. So the mind begins to help. So mind is a very, very powerful driver. The question is it using its power in your benefit for your dhyana, or is it working against you for your degradation? So that is the case of the friend and the enemy. Okay, so that is the 6.5 and 6.6. Now comes 6.7. So 6.7 is sort of the key verse of Dhyana Yoga. So if you want to understand what is Dhyana Yoga, what is it? It is 6.7. The definition of Dhyana Yoga is given here in 6.7. So what does it say? Jitatmanaha prashantasya paramatma samahitaha शीतोषण सुख दुखेषु तथा मान apamanayoh. So let's dissect this verse and see what it says. So it is describing Dhyana Yoga. One who has Jita Atmana. Jita Atmana. Atma is here referred to as the mind. That the Atmana is the contextual meaning of Atmana is mind. Jita means conquered or has victory, has won over. So one who has conquered the mind, Jita Atmanaha, Paramatma Samahitaha. So now what does he achieve? Samahitaha, what is the meaning of Samahitaha? Approaches completely or attains. Who does he attain? Paramatma. This is what we had said earlier. The goal of Dhyana Yoga is to attain or to be able to see, to come face to face with Paramatma. This is Paramatma Samahitaha. And then what happens in that stage? When one achieves that stage, one is completely in tranquility. One is completely in peace. What does he say? Shito shana sukha dukkheshu. So shito shana, heat or cold. Sukha dukkheshu, happiness and distress. And tatha man apamanayoh, honor and dishonor. He sees all these things as the same. There is no difference for such a person. So it starts with, how do you get there? You get there by jita atmanaha, by conquering your mind. And what do you get? Paramatma samahitaha. You are able to come face to face. You are able to attain Paramatma. You are able to see Paramatma. That's what you get. And then what happens? What is your state at that point? You are completely in bliss. You see honor, dishonor as the same. Um, Heat and cold, happiness, distress, there is no difference. One is completely situated in the tranquility. So this is describing Dhyana Yoga. Okay. I just wanted to read a small portion of the purport of a future verse where Srila Prabhupada is describing this Dhyana Yoga as well nicely. So let me just quickly share that with you. Share screen. Okay, so this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6. This is vedabase.io website, our wonderful resource for all the books of Srila Prabhupada. And 13 and 14 in the purport. So we will read the purport here, just the first few lines. The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. Now, Paramatma has a specific form, and that is the Vishnu Murti, it's called. Vishnu Murti is the four-handed Vishnu form. So Paramatma is present specifically in that form, not in the two-handed Krishna form, not in the two-handed Rama form, none of those, but the four-handed Vishnu form with the Shankh, Chakra, Gada, Padma. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu and not for any other purpose. So it is not for health, not for gymnastics, not for yoga asana and all those things. It is meant to see Vishnu. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. So if you're just doing yoga asana, it's good for your health, but please don't call it Dhyana Yoga or yoga. That is just exercise. So you might as well, just, do some running or lift weights in the gym, and yoga asana, it's all one in the same. So there's no, that's hardly any yoga. So I just wanted to share that piece with, or that part with you all. Now, 6.8. So 6.8, it starts with Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. So this is the first occurrence of Jnana Vijnana. Now we will deal with it in a little more detail in chapter 7. This Jnana Vijnana occurs 3 times in Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 7, in chapter 9, and here in chapter 6. Chapter 7 and 9, it comes in one of the beginning verses, 9.1 and 7.2, I think. Anyhow, we will have a little detailed discussion of that at that time. What is Jnana and what is Vijnana? Or if one of you has questions or something like that, we can talk about it at that time. I've also done some seminars on a chapter, where we go into the chapter in more detail, sometimes like a whole day seminar, 6 hours or something on a single chapter. We go into many more details in such seminars. So, we'll see, but I don't want to spend more time on Jnana and Vijnana, the differences and all that at this stage. However, I'll make one point, but let me finish this. So, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. So, verse number 8 says, A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or a mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stone, or gold, as the same. So this verse 6.8 and 6.9 kind of go together. 6.8 is saying that one who is self-realized, or one who has who is established in this self-realized state, he sees two things: matter as the same, all kinds of matter. So what is said here, whether it be pebbles, gold, or stone, as the pebble, stone, or gold as the same. So seeing matter at the same level. This is just matter. This is also matter. This is also matter. And in the next verse, 6.9 is saying seeing all people at the same level. That is a little harder. How do you say that someone A is the same as B? We have so much programming, so much conditioning to treat people differently. Oh, I like this person. I don't like this person. Oh, he's a rich person. Let me try to become his friend. Maybe, I'll get some money later. Or he's a powerful person. Let me make him my friend. Or things like that. We try to approach people so by kind of gauging our sense gratification or our potential for sense gratification that we can get from them. What benefit I can get from him? If I see a poor beggar, what benefit I can get from him? We say, I'm not interested in you. And somebody else whom we can get some benefit from, I want to become your friend. So how to see all people the same? That is the next verse. So just a quick sort of a difference, jnana and vijnana. Jnana is theoretical knowledge. Vijnana is realized knowledge. Knowledge that we get upon contemplation, upon application, when you apply something. So that's why science, vijnana, that's why science or modern science, the Sanskrit or the Hindi word for that is vijnana. Because not only you learn the theory, you also try out, you do experiments. And then you say, aha, this is how it works. So you apply it in practice and then you draw conclusions. This is how it is. This is how it works. So that is vijnana. Jnana is theoretical knowledge. Vijnana is realized knowledge, or knowledge that comes after application. So we will limit it to that. But 6.8 is talking about equanimity of a self-realized person across all material things. 6.9, let's go to that, which is talking about equanimity among people. So 6.9 says, a person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, envious, friends and enemies, pious and sinners with all an equal mind. So looking at all the people with an equal mind is the characteristic of a Dhyana yogi. So as conditioned people, we tend to see people based on their potential to provide us sense gratification. But that's not how a Dhyana yogi or a yogi will see other people as. Now, in the purport, I just wanted to point out of 6.10, Srila Prabhupada takes a very rare detour, and he is very accommodative. Very rarely it happens, but he's accommodative of the Mayavadis. Maybe I'll just read it here. Srila Prabhupada is saying, those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized super soul are also partially Krishna conscious, because the impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna and the super soul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus, the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. So that I just thought of pointing that out, that Srila Prabhupada here is being unusually accommodative of the Mayavadis, which usually doesn't happen, and rightly so. So that's a nice portion of the purport to read. Let's see. Okay, now comes the more instructional part of Dhyana Yoga. So so far we described what is Dhyana Yoga, and it entails conquering the mind, focusing the mind on the Paramatma, and what happens when one attains Dhyana Yoga. Now, more details on how to make progress in Dhyana Yoga. What is the process? So 6.10. So the process of Dhyana Yoga is, 6.10 says, a transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. So, you should, I'll go ahead and read. So, what we can do at this point is, yeah, let me go ahead and read up to 14. So once again, number 10 is, a transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in his relationship to the Supreme. He should live in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. 11 and 12, to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should neither be too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. 13, 14. Srila Prabhupada is combining these verses together. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So several things to be pointed out over here. So, and one of the nice things that Srila Prabhupada has done, and we will do, is to see how we can dovetail this towards bhakti. So, it says, 6.10, a transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. So, instead of engaging the body, mind, and soul in the Supreme, as bhakti yoga or as a sadhana bhakti, through the process of bhakti, which is known as sadhana bhakti, one can engage his body, mind, and soul in Krishna. And in one of the verses just in a little while, we will see the example of Ambarish Maharaj, which is an example given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Ambarish Maharaj was a great king, and we will see how he engaged all his entire body in serving Lord Vishnu. He should live alone in a secluded place. So as bhakti yogis, as ones who are practicing bhakti, there is no need to live in a secluded place, which is like in the mountains or the hills or the forest. Here, secluded place means in the company of devotees. not in the company of materialistic people. So secluded from materialists, secluded from people who are 24/7 talking about material things. Hey, what is the latest score in the cricket match? What is the stock price going? How is this person doing? That all kinds of mundane things, politics, this, that. So instead of talking about all kinds of nonsense or associating with those people uh, who are devotional minded, that would be living in a secluded place, because you are secluded from the materialistic people, and control his mind. So that is how we can see verse number 10. Verse number 11 and 12 say that one should go to a secluded place and also to a sacred place. So sacred places called as in the first part, Shuchau Deshe. Shucha means clean, but Shuchau Deshe is a clean place or a sacred place. So no need to go to a sacred place. One should, now of course it is encouraged, you should go to holy places. You should go to Vrindavan, Mathura, Ayodhya, all these nice places you should go to. But if you want to go to sacred places all the time, the best way is to make your home a sacred place. Just make your home very clean. Have a room, if you cannot allocate a whole room, maybe a nice portion of a room to God. Put a nice picture of God, and keep it clean, and do your devotional activities, and make your home a sacred place. No need to go to a sacred place all the time. It says, sit on a deer skin. No need to where will you find deer skin these days? So no need to sit on a deer skin or kusha grass. It means sit with the focused mind in a comfortable place. So you can sit in a chair, you can sit on the floor, whatever makes you feel comfortable, so that you can put your mind on Krishna. So whatever is comfortable, you sit on that and do your devotional practice. Now one will ask, why is deer skin mentioned? Deer skin is mentioned because in the old days, or if you go into the forest, deer skin keeps the snakes and scorpions and all the other dangerous reptiles and animals away. So if a yogi is sitting on a deer skin, he will not be disturbed by these kind of animals. And that's the meaning of a deer skin. It doesn't mean the yogi goes and kills the deer. If it's a dead deer, he finds dead deer are there in the forest, and he uses their skin. So so in this way, with a slight modification of Dhyana Yoga, you can easily apply it to Bhakti Yoga. Only a slight modification is needed, and to suggest those slight modifications, we need the guidance of an Acharya like Srila Prabhupada. So, which is what we are sharing here. Okay. Now, in this purport of 11 and 12, I just wanted to point out is a very beautiful verse. This Srila Prabhupada is writing here. Let me share my screen. In 11 and 12, this is the only place in the Bhagavad Gita where Srila Prabhupada has quoted this Harer Nama verse in the entire Bhagavad Gita. This is from Brihad Naradiya Purana. This is very wonderful, one of the primary Puranas. Just like Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the Purana, Bhagavat Purana, there's another Purana called Brihad Naradiya Purana. And this is a verse from that, especially meant for Kali Yuga. And this is how you can make your home a sacred place. By chanting or by reciting the Hare Krishna mantra, or by reciting the name of God. And this verse is saying that that's what we should do. So this verse says, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam. So 3 times this verse is saying Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama. It's like when you emphasize something, you say it over and over again. Do this, do this, do this. So Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam. So it's not like Harer Nama mixed with something else. No, Kevalam means only this. What will Harer Nama do? Kalau nastyeva 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 gatir anyatha. In Kali Yuga, to get relief from Kali Yuga, or to be able to successfully cross Kali Yuga, gatir anyatha, there is no other gati, or there is no other process. To be successful in crossing Kali Yuga, Kalau nastyeva nastyeva nastyeva, there is no other way, no other way, no other way. Again, a triple emphasis on this. So basically this verse is saying there is no other way, no other way, no other way, and you must take the name Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, especially in Kali Yuga. And that way your home can become a sacred place, and your body where God is residing can really become a temple. Today, our bodies are doing all kinds of nonsense things, and Paramatma is residing in our body. But wherever God resides, that place is what? It's a temple. So, and we are supposed to keep the temple clean. Similarly, we are supposed to keep our body clean and our mind clean. So how do we clean our internal aspect and the external aspect? Is by Harer Nama. So that is what is coming out in this particular verse. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Now, verses number 13 and 14. So here, Lord Krishna is saying, stare at the tip of the nose. So what does that mean? The tip of the nose is a very uninteresting place. What is there at the tip of the nose? Nothing. But the point is that when you stare at the tip of the nose, it means that your mind has nothing to kind of see and salivate upon. Oh, this is so nice, so wonderful. Like if you're taking a walk in a scenic forest, oh, see those wonderful trees, see this, see that. You're staring at the tip of the nose, the most uninteresting thing in the whole world, so that your mind can go inward. Now that is very difficult. Even Arjun will say it's very difficult. So for bhaktas, for sadhana bhakti, what you can do is look at the picture of the Lord. And there are so many wonderful pictures of the Lord. And you don't have to focus the mind on something uninteresting. You can focus the mind on something very interesting, which is related to Krishna. So that is how, instead of focusing on your tip of your nose, and there are so many picture books available about Krishna. Pick up any one. In the temples you will find, on the internet you could find. There's just no dearth. And the Srimad Bhagavatam has so many descriptions of Lord Krishna doing various activities, and wonderful devotee artists have created so many pictures depicting all those leelas and pastimes, that you can see picture after picture after picture, and it is no different than staring at the tip of the nose, as mentioned in this verse. Staring at pictures of Krishna are exactly the same. And that is Bhakti Yoga. Somebody had asked a question one of the times, how do I perform bhakti? And these are the practical things that I'm suggesting as we are going along this chapter, how you can do bhakti at home in very simple ways. This is Bhakti Yoga. Instead of flipping through, I don't know what magazines. I know in India there used to be whatever, some Bollywood magazine, Mayapur or whatever, Filmfare and whatnot. You flip through books of Krishna with picture after picture after picture. And that could be your version of Filmfare. So like that. Now, in 14 point C and D, Krishna says in the last line, 14 C and D, Manaha samyamya mat chitto yukta asita mat paraha. So this is the first reference Krishna is giving to himself. Manaha sanyamya mat chitto. So what that means is, Manaha sanyamya means concentrate the mind on the chitta, or the on me, concentrate the chitta on me. Chitta means mind. And yukta asita matparaha, and then you should focus on mat paraha, make me, or focus on that end goal as me. Mat paraha, make me the end goal. So now Krishna is trying to give that hint, and he will give a very, very clear convergence that whatever this Paramatma is, whatever this highest realization is, it is no different than me. That he will do it at the end of the chapter, before Arjun asks the question, by the way. So we will see that connection, and he is giving that hint right here. He's saying, fix the mind on me, mat chitta, and make me the ultimate goal, mat paraha. So that 6.7, which we went to earlier, which says that Paramatma is the goal. That Paramatma and this Krishna, mat paraha, mat chitta, are one and the same. So instead of focusing on Paramatma, as Bhakta yogis, or as sadhana bhakti process says, just focus on Krishna. Now 6.15. Again we will see, thus practicing the constant control of the body, mind and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God, or the abode of Krishna, by cessation of material existence. So this last 15D, 6.15D says, mat sthanam adhigacchati. Mat sthanam, mat again means my. So Krishna is saying he goes to mat sthanam. Sthanam means place or residence. So this this destination, this nirvanam stage, shantim nirvanam paramam. If you look at 15C, shantim nirvanam paramam, this nirvana, highest nirvana, paramam. What is that? Where do you get highest nirvana? You get highest nirvana at mat sthanam, Krishna is saying, at my residence. So this highest nirvana, there is no void. There is no, the highest stage is not this void stage, or this stage of becoming one with some abstract light or energy. That highest stage, nirvanam paramam, Krishna is saying, is mat sthanam. It's my residence. So it is not anything void. As Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says, you know, there is no void anywhere in creation except in the voidist's mind. So that is the only place where there is void. In whole of creation, there is no void. There is either matter or there is spirit. So here, when one gets liberated, one goes to Krishna's abode, mat sthanam. And in the purport of that same verse, number 15, Srila Prabhupada is just making the comment that one who seeks to improve, or seeks an improvement in health, or aspires after material perfection, is no yogi according to Bhagavad Gita. So the goal of yoga is Brahma Nirvanam, or this Nirvana Paramam, which is the same as Mat Sthanam, not some good health, more property, you know, all those kind of material things. That is not the goal. Now, Krishna will focus on some more very practical instructions. So, 16 and 17 are two very practical verses which are talking about balance. Now, this is talking about our balance in our life, balance and regulation. This is at the beginning stages. So let's see 6.16. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. And 17 says, he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So the emphasis here is that on regulating our physical activities and regulating our life. And the purpose is not for good health. Of course, if you sleep well or don't sleep too much or sleep, even if you sleep too much, there's a saying, if you sleep too much, you become lazy. If you sleep too little, you become crazy. So, I have seen this myself. When sometimes I have to sleep very less. After 2-3 hours of sleep, I have to get up, and then my brain doesn't work. I'm moving around like a zombie, and till I get, next night I get some 8 hours of good sleep, or catch up on sleep, as they say. So this whole thing is not just for good health, but is to support our spiritual progress. If you are moving around like a zombie after 2 hours of sleep, you cannot focus on Krishna. Of course, your health will go down as well if you do it on a consistent basis. But what will go down along with the health is your spiritual progress. So that is the main purpose. So that spiritual progress can keep occurring, we should organize our life in a disciplined and a regulated way. Now, this does not apply to pure devotees who are the siddhas. The pure devotees of the Lord, they are completely protected by Krishna. Like Haridas Thakur, I think we had mentioned his example earlier. He used to constantly, 24/7, constantly keep chanting Krishna's name. And he never used to even sleep. He had conquered over sleep. So sleeping too little or too much does not apply to people like Haridas Thakur. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he used to sleep for only 1 or 2 hours per day. He used to sleep around 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the night, get up by midnight, 12 o'clock in midnight, and then he used to start writing books or start translating Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all these wonderful scriptures that he translated. He would do that from midnight, 12 o'clock till 4:30 in the morning. 4:30, he used to, if he was at the temple, any big temple, he would go and attend Mangalarti, then go after that, go for his morning walk and do japa and other things, and then, preaching activities. But night time, midnight till 4 o'clock was his core time when he used to write books. And he used to get by with 2 hours of sleep. So that's because he's an acharya. We should not try those kind of things. Okay. So we should never try to imitate the acharyas. We should try to follow in their footsteps. There is a difference, and I have, we have done many classes before on the difference between imitation of acharyas or imitating acharyas and versus following in their footsteps. The key difference is imitation means you try to act like them. Oh, they are sleeping 2 hours, I will sleep 2 hours. You try to jump to the end where they are right now. Following in the footsteps means you start where they were. According to where you are, you start where they were at that stage. So you you track their progress. You don't jump to their end state. If you jump to their end state, it will be a disaster for you. Yes, I can get by for 2 hours of sleep for maybe at most 1 week max. 1 week I can sustain with 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours of sleep. After that, I'm sure I'll end up in the hospital. So one should not try to act like the end stage of an acharya. One should start following where they started when they were beginners. And many acharyas were beginners in their many past lives. So you can't even track that. So one should never try to imitate. One should try to be sincere in his practice. Okay, we'll go to 6.18. This is the beautiful verse where with the purport has the description of Ambarish Maharaj. So let's see. So 6.18 says, when the yogi by practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. So this verse and the next several verses, so 18, 19, all the way up to 23, these verses are describing the state of samadhi, the highest stage of dhyana yoga. Remember those 8 limbs of yoga: yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyana, and finally samadhi. So these 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23, these 6 verses are describing that end stage of samadhi. So why don't we do this? Take 2 minutes and just read the translations all the way up to 23, 18 to 23. Just read the translations, please. 2 minutes. Okay, 20 more seconds. Okay, so these set of 6 verses are describing the state of samadhi, or the state of absolute bliss, the state of perfection when one is face to face with Paramatma in his heart. So uh, in the purport of 6.18, Srila Prabhupada is giving this description of Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj was the king of the planet in the historical times, or very, very ancient times. And his description is given in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, chapter 4. And this description is given. You can read it on your own sometime later, but it is very beautiful. Ambarish Maharaj was a great, wonderful devotee of Lord Vishnu. And here is the description giving how he used to spend his day. He wouldn't spend his day enjoying with women or his queens and seeing the dances of the apsaras and all those things. 24/7 his time was spent in serving the Lord. Very beautifully saying, with his eyes he would see the Lord, with his hands he would clean the temple of the Lord, with his nose he would smell the fragrance of the flowers offered to the Lord. With the tongue, he would eat the prasadam that was offered to the Lord. Every part of his body was used in serving the Lord. So he, in that state, is in the state of samadhi. Samadhi for normal people means completely being absorbed inward. It's like a You can think of like in the Patanjali system, it's like the state of coma, completely, almost like dead. But in bhakti or in bhakti yoga, samadhi means completely engaged in devotional activities towards Krishna, just like Ambarish Maharaj. So when Ambarish Maharaj, what those activities are being described, 24/7, he was always in samadhi, always. Um, in the real sort of the Patanjali system of Dhyana Yoga, the actual theoretical Dhyana Yoga, the goal is to silence all the material emotions. But in Bhakti Yoga, the goal is to kindle spiritual emotions, not silence them. It goes one step ahead. Of course, you silence material emotions, but you kindle spiritual emotions. So there are many other examples of great devotees who would be in samadhi and were completely engaged in samadhi, which means there was a lot of activity in samadhi. There is one very beautiful example given in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami is one of the 6 Goswamis that we had described earlier. And he was very, very, very renounced. To an extent, he didn't even eat anything. Every day he would just drink like one palm full of buttermilk. That's all that his diet was. And he would constantly be engaged in hearing and reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So that was his daily job, so to say. Then one day his stomach became upset. He got his stomach upset. And then one Vaidya or a doctor came and he examined him and he said he has a stomach upset because he has eaten too much. The other Vaishnavas got mad at the doctor. He said, "Do you know who you are talking about? This is Raghunath Das Goswami. He doesn't eat anything. And you are telling he is having this stomach problem because he ate too much? You should give the right kind of diagnosis. You're a useless doctor." And they were scolding him and getting angry at him in that way. But then Raghunath Das Goswami said, no, stop. He is correct. I actually ate too much. And everybody was surprised. What? Raghunath Das Goswami, how can you eat too much? He said, actually what happened in the night, I was completely absorbed in the pastime of Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani prepared wonderful kheer, sweet rice, and she was distributing to all the devotees. After giving to Krishna, all the devotees had so much sweet rice. And I also had some excess sweet rice. It was so wonderful, I just overate. And now I got a stomach upset. So this means that this is the state of samadhi. For pure devotees like Raghunath Das Goswami, they don't cease activities, but they even participate in spiritual activities along with Krishna. They actually participate in the spiritual activities, and the effects are visible even at the material level. The after effects are there, what you can say hangover or whatever, is present even in the material realm. This is the state of samadhi for bhaktas. And Raghunath Das Goswami is a great, great bhakta of Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. So that's what is the state of samadhi. Samadhi means being engaged, not just observing, closing the mind and being able to see the Lord, but even participating with him in his pastimes, in his leelas. So that is the meaning of samadhi from a bhakti standpoint. And there are many other pastimes, many other stories. There was the story of a Vaishnava Brahmin who was cooking some preparation to offer to Krishna. And in his mind, completely in his mind, there was no cooking that he was doing. There was no pot. In his mind, he was cooking. And in his mind, he wanted to test before offering that it should not be boiling hot. It should be a little bit cool. But it was not cool. And he dipped his finger, all in his mind, in his meditation. He dipped his finger. It was too hot and his finger got burnt and his meditation broke. And when he saw his finger, it was actually burnt. So that is the state of samadhi. Completely in the mind, to the extent that the after effects are visible or perceivable in the material world. Okay, so we will move forward. One second. Okay, now 6.19. So basically, so we'll go over this 6.19. Okay, we already read that. 6.20 to 23. This 20 to 23 are 4 verses which Srila Prabhupada has combined into one sort of a section. And this is giving the most wonderful description of samadhi. This is the most enthralling, the most thrilling description of samadhi in the entire Bhagavad Gita. So there are many aspects in this verse, and many aspects of it can be dovetailed into bhakti. So for example, I'll read a few things. One's mind is completely in this stage of perfection called trance or samadhi. One's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. So no need to restrain your mind. You engage it in Krishna. That would be the bhakti or the sadhana bhakti way. So this chapter, as we said, is giving very nice instruction on sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti means doing your sadhana or your spiritual practices in bhakti or in bhakti yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. So no need to see the self. You see Krishna and you rejoice in the self. No need to rejoice in the self. You rejoice in the worship of Krishna. You rejoice in singing the glories of Krishna. You rejoice in hearing the pastimes, the sweet pastimes of Krishna. So there is a lot of, and you rejoice in eating prasadam. Wonderful prasadam you can eat. So, Srila Prabhupada used to say this process of bhakti is very nice. We say, eat, drink, and be merry. That's a very common thing. Be happy means eat, drink, and be merry. Well, eat, drink, and be merry can be done in bhakti yoga as well. You eat prasadam, you drink prasadam, and you dance and you sing Krishna's glories. You sing Hare Krishna and you dance. So you eat, drink, and be merry in bhakti yoga as well. Okay, so we will move forward from 23 onwards. So 24. Now 24, 25, and 26 are another set of 3 verses with a lot of practical instructions which can be applied to bhakti yoga. Very, very practical, extremely practical. So let's look at 24, 25, and 26. And I think we will stop there at 26 and then we will take questions. Okay, let's see. So 24, one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. So let's look at some of the Sanskrit verses or the Sanskrit words. So what are some of the practical prescriptive items? You will see sa nishchayena, nishchaya. Nishchaya means determination. So with determination, one should do bhakti yoga. Then it says, Anirvinna chetasa. Anirvinna means without deviation. Chetasha means mind. So without letting the mind deviate. So don't let your mind or don't let yourself get deviated. So the first was nishchaya, determination, without letting the mind be deviated. Then the third thing is sankalpa. If you see sankalpa prabhavan kamamsh. So sankalpa, which means making resolutions and not to be attracted by kama. Kama means strong attachments. So not to get attracted. Then giving up, tyaktva sarvan, giving up all sources of sense gratification. So not letting even one source of sense gratification remain. It's like, if you let one sense gratification, it's like one small crack can break the whole dam gradually, step by step. It starts by one little crack, and that's how a dam bursts. So don't let any sense gratification take seat in your heart. And then it says, Indriya Graman. Indriya Graman means, or Manasa Eva, Indriya Gramam. Manasa, keep the mind away from your Indriya Gramam, from the sense objects. Indriya means sense, Gramam, Indriya Gramam, sense objects, as perceived by the senses. So anytime you see something that you know will carry you away towards the downward path, shut off yourself completely right at that moment. Don't let your mind dwell too much. If it dwells too much, then you might act on it. Mind dwelling is okay. The problem is when you start acting on it. And to prevent action, cut out the sense objects from the senses. Close your senses, go away, do something like that. So, and how do you do all this? The power to do all this comes also by sadhana bhakti. Not just constant practice of detachment, but parallelly attaching to Krishna. So the more and more you start gaining a higher taste, the more you will get detached from these kind of bad sense objects. So those are some of the practical things in 24. 6.25 now. 25 says, gradually, step by step, shanai shanai, very important and very, very, very crucial. Step by step, shanai shanai, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So one of the key points in this verse is shanai shanai. This process of spiritual progress is gradual. Okay, now let me share one very secret or very important thing. Some of you may be, overweight or in bad health or something like that. How did you get to that bad health? It was over time. Or some of us have bad habits. Where and when did those bad habits start? Over a long time they developed. The secret part is, ask someone who has had very good health, who goes to the gym, who's very disciplined in doing exercise and everything. If he starts doing becomes undisciplined, non-disciplined, it will take him a very long time to degrade as well. So it's not that making spiritual progress or making progress takes time. Even degradation also takes time, because anything that requires time. With spiritual practice, the problem is we expect overnight results. We are always very impatient for good things to happen. Bad things we feel happen much more quickly because we have been oblivious to how long we have been doing them. And we think, oh, how come I became bad so fast? And why does it take so much time to become good? Well, you did not become bad or get into bad habits very fast. That also happened over a long time. So similarly, spiritual progress is, Lord Krishna is saying right here, it is gradual, shanai shanai, step by step. So one of the biggest pitfalls in spiritual progress is to be impatient, is to expect overnight results. And that should never be the case. That's a very big pitfall. Oh, I have been taking Krishna's name and I feel nothing. Actually, somebody told me, I said, okay, how long have you been doing that? 2 weeks. So just 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks. And how long have we spent not taking Krishna's name? Many, many lifetimes. And in 2 weeks, we expect a complete transformation. That is not possible. So one should be at it. That's what the previous verse is saying, nishchaya, and not let yourself deviate. So one should be determined, one should be on this path, and gradually the results will come. Every Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Every time you say this mantra, it is cleansing your heart one by one. It is having an effect, but it will have, the overall results will be visible to you after some time. And then finally, 6.26. This is a beautiful verse, very beautiful verse. A lot of people say, my mind wanders off. What to do? I start with focused mind, then it goes away. What to do? Solution is given in 6.26. So many times I've had Q&A with people, one-on-one with people, and innumerable times I have used 6.26 verse to show them. So it says, from wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Mind will wander. Mind will wander, absolutely, that is the case. It says here, mana chanchalam asthiram. If you see 6.26b, the B portion of the verse, chanchalam asthiram. That is the nature of the mind. Chanchala. Chanchal means flickering, restless. Asthira means not steady, unsteady. So one should realize the mind is like that. It is chanchala, it is asthira. Okay, so mind will stray away. So it's okay if the mind strays away. Don't let it stay away. Okay, it's okay if the mind strays away. Don't let it stay away, which means bring it back. It's okay, mind gone, you bring it back. You also be like the mind. You be more determined than the mind. The more determined the mind is to go away, you have to be more determined to bring it back. Every time, like a small child, you know. So you cannot control the mind, but you can always bring it back. So a lot of people tell me when they're doing japa, the mind goes somewhere else and they blame themselves. They, you know, self-victimize. Oh, I'm a bad person. I cannot do japa, or I am unable to do it. I'm a bad devotee. So don't think like that. Everybody's mind strays away. Whenever, as soon as you realize, oh, my mind is somewhere else, bring it back. Just bring it back. And remember 6.26, even Krishna is saying that's what you should do. So when Krishna is saying that, you can feel better about it. Just bring it back. Very simple. Don't blame yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't do any of those things. Now we are almost at the end of this section. This section ends in another 27 to 32. So that is 6 more verses. And now finally, Krishna is going to describe, we will cover these 6 and then the rest of the chapter next week. But in these 6 verses, finally, Krishna is giving the stages of spiritual realization. The first 2 verses, 27 and 28, are talking about the Brahman realization. 29 is talking about Paramatma realization. And then in 30, Krishna is talking about Bhagavan. He's saying, finally, the highest level is to come to me. Me as Mama. Krishna will use the word. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarva cha mai pashyati. So he's saying, I am the same Paramatma. And in 31, he's saying that Paramatma of verse number 29. And this mam pashyati sarvam, or sarvam cha mai pashyati, you see me everywhere. They are one and the same. I am that Paramatma. So better come to me. So that is the Bhagavan realization. So that is the progression of the next few verses. Krishna will then wrap up the whole description of Dhyana Yoga. And then in 33, Arjuna asks the question. Then he says, Krishna, that's all good what you told me, but I cannot control the mind. Give me a solution. So we will see what happens. And that's one of the most beautiful parts of this chapter. Actually, I like that part, the response that Krishna gives. And then, Arjuna asks one more question. That whole thing is a very, very uplifting, very confidence building measure in Bhakti Yoga, in Sadhana Bhakti. So don't miss the next session. It's one of the most beautiful, most satisfying, most reassuring portions. How to control the mind and what to do when we fail. Because I certainly am, and I'm sure many others are in that category. We try to do sadhana, but we feel we are not making enough progress. What will happen to us for those who are unable to make quick progress? So that question Krishna will answer in the later part of the 6th chapter. So it's a very beautiful portion. Please don't miss that next time when it happens. Okay, let's see some Q&A that came in. Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see the screen? Okay, I assume the answer is yes. Yes? Okay, somebody said yes. Good. Thank you. So the question here is, which is the real God? And I listened to Puranas, and each Purana says what God is describing is the supreme God. So the question is, who is the real supreme God? Well, so, good question. So, and that's true. Some of the Puranas, like Shiva Purana, will say that Lord Shiva is the greatest. He is the most supreme. And why just the Puranas? Why not include all the other scriptures, all the other religious texts, everything into the mix? For example, the Quran says that Allah is the greatest, or the Bible says Jehovah, or depending on which Bible, if you read the Jehovah's Witnesses, or Jesus Christ, the Father, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They are all at the same level of divinity. So the Father and the Son. The Father is God and the Son is Christ, Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is God according to the Bible. At least, definitely the Catholic version. That's the understanding. So who is the real God? So well, if you go deep into the understanding, God is all. So this is, I'm talking in a broader sense. there is one God with different names. Now, in the Vedas, the name Jesus Christ or Allah is not mentioned, but if the understanding, or if, maybe some acharya in the future will come and reveal that Allah and Jesus Christ and Krishna, they are just different names of the same supreme person, then that will clarify the confusion. So, but Vedas do say that Krishna, Rama, Narsimhadev, Vamana, they are all just different incarnations and different names for the same person. So that's point number one. Now, there are other Puranas like Shiva Purana. Let's just take that example. Talks about Lord Shiva as being the supreme, and there is no Vedic understanding or no Vedic statement that says Shiva and Vishnu are the same. They are just two different names for the same person. That's not the case. So how do we understand? And that is probably where this question is coming from. Now, this is where it comes down to faith. So we covered this kind of question in the orientation part. We said that this whole course is based on Bhagavad Gita. That is the one axiom we have to use. We have to, for the purposes of this class, we are saying we will consider Bhagavad Gita as the authentic version of the absolute reality. And according to the Bhagavad Gita, you will see many places Lord Krishna is saying that I am the supreme. Now, similarly, Shiva Purana may be saying something differently. Now, how do we reconcile this? So, there are few ways to reconcile. Now, one of the, for example, reconciliation is provided by Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami says that there are now 14 Manvantaras. Manvantara is a large period of time. Each Manvantara consists of 71 Yuga cycles, 71 cycles of Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So this four form one Yuga cycle or one Maha Yuga cycle. 71 such cycles is the duration of one Manvantara duration. So, and there are 14 such Manvantaras in one day of Brahma. So among those 14 Manvantaras, in one of them, Lord Vishnu requested Lord Shiva to become the supreme deity. And the Shiva Puran is talking about that Manvantara only. So this is what Jiva Goswami has described. Now, somebody else, for the sake of argument, can always say, okay, well, Jiva Goswami is a Vaishnava Acharya. So of course he can, say that. And I'm sure that there may be some Shaivite Acharya or somebody who will have a similar explanation. I don't know, maybe in his writings, that Lord Vishnu is the supreme Lord for one Manvantara, but the real supreme Lord is Lord Shiva. So there is ultimately not going to be any reconciliation. So this is where the request to all the people listening is to pick your faith and follow it, rather than spending your whole life trying to find out is this the real faith? Is this the real faith? Is this the one? Is this the one? It's like when you have to go study higher education, you apply to many colleges, you get admitted to, let's say, 5 places. You don't spend the rest of the life studying the college. Within 1 month, you make a decision, okay, I will go to this college, and then you spend 4 years studying the subject, not studying the college. Not reading the biographies of the professors, or this professor is better, or this professor is better, or this college is better, or this college. You do some research, and then you make a decision, and you go forward. So that will be the request. Otherwise, you will spend all your life just, seeking, but not making any progress on any real path. So if you're inspired by Bhagavad Gita, by Srimad Bhagavatam, this human life, especially in Kali Yuga, is very short. The request is pick one path and start making progress on it, rather than being entrapped in the question which one is the best, or who is the supreme God. Okay, so that would be my response to that. And the point is, very soon you will have realization, you will have reciprocation of God in your heart, which will tell you you are on the right path. So sincerely, genuinely start following the path, and I would recommend follow the path of Bhagavad Gita, and absolutely you will see a reciprocation in your heart, and then you will know I am on the right path. So that would be the answer. Okay, this is a very sweet question. How to offer food to the Lord? And there is another twist in the tale here, which says that the biggest challenge is that everyone in the family has different varieties and different timings and different taste based on salt and spices. So the question is, how do we offer to the Lord in that way? Okay, well, looks like whoever wrote this thing is a very dedicated mother or father, whoever is doing this cooking, and is cooking different things and different tastes and spices and all that for every family member. It's a very lucky family. But as far as offering to Krishna is concerned, you offer whatever you are preparing. The key ingredient is not the salt and spices or anything, but love and devotion. And Krishna is not restricted to 3 meals a day. Krishna can be offered 20 meals a day. If you offer with love and devotion, Krishna will eat and eat and eat, and he will not get indigestion. Okay. In Jagannath Puri, which is a great temple of Lord Krishna, constantly 24/7 offerings are going to him. There is no limit as to how much he can eat. So if you are preparing many varieties for your family members, all you have to do is offer them before you offer to your family members. So make a small plate, keep a plate for Lord Krishna, a clean plate, keep it exclusively for offering to God. In your kitchen, make a small area on your countertop, which is sattvic. You don't put dirty dishes, you don't, touch with dirty hands or anything. Put a picture of Lord Krishna. And whatever you are preparing, take out a small portion, put it in a little plate, put it in front of Lord Krishna, and very sincerely just pray in your heart in English language, Hindi language, whatever is your native language. Lord Krishna, I have made this simple offering and I am very unqualified to offer you, but please accept whatever little I have made. Just that, say something from your heart. If nothing, and then maybe if you have time and inclination, chant Hare Krishna mantra for 5 minutes. Wait there. So give 5 minutes of your time and then remove the plate and then give it to whoever needs to eat in your family. So you just don't change anything you're doing except adding the 5-minute delay from your standpoint in offering to Krishna. Whatever you're offering, just first offer to Krishna. So don't change anything you're doing. If you're preparing 20 dishes a day or 2 dishes a day, and if on any day you are not preparing anything, then simply offer some water. You can definitely offer water. You can offer some dry fruit or some fruit, some milk. If you have tulsi plant, just offer a tulsi leaf. Krishna is very satisfied with just a tulsi leaf and water. So no need for any fancy things. And if you prepare anything sattvic means no meat, no eggs, and no onion or garlic either. So try to go towards this sattvic preparations. And when you prepare something like that, offer to Krishna and then eat. Wait 5 minutes and then eat. That's all that you have to do. But don't let it become a ritual. Every single time when you offer, try to generate the love and devotion. And even while cooking, when you cook, even while purchasing the ingredients from the market, have that devotion and love. I am buying this for Krishna. I am cooking this for Krishna. Even though you are cooking for your husband or your child or whatever, at least try to generate this feeling, I am doing this for Krishna. And yes, as a byproduct, my husband, my wife, my child will also enjoy. Fine. but keep Krishna in your consciousness. That is Krishna consciousness. Okay? And there are some prayers given that you can chant, you can offer to, and always, yes, very important thing, I forgot. Along with a picture of Krishna, definitely keep a small picture of Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, or whoever your family guru is who is a Vaishnava. The offering to Krishna must be made through the guru. I will explain this at a later time. But guru's picture must be there. This is an absolute must. However small, even 1 inch by 1 inch, doesn't matter, like a stamp size. It doesn't matter, but must have a picture of guru. If you don't have a guru, just accept Srila Prabhupada as your guru. Small picture of Srila Prabhupada, small or big, absolutely keep it on the left side of the picture of Krishna. The offering to Krishna is always through guru. We should never directly offer to Krishna. The simple reason is, if there are any offenses, we are offensive people. We have a lot of dirty things in our mind. With that kind of a mentality, we should not directly offer to Krishna. We should offer to Guru. He will accept, he won't mind. But he is very pure. His mind is pure. He will offer to Krishna. Okay? So you are applying it, passing it through the Guru's filter, so to say. Guru will never reject. He will never reject your offering. He will pass on to Krishna everything you give. But when it is coming through his hands, it's getting purified. So always, always, always offer through Guru. Don't underestimate this point. Keep a small picture of Srila Prabhupada next to Krishna's picture and then offer. Okay, next one, how to meditate on Krishna. So we talked about meditation all the time today. So I don't have anything more to say here. The simple answer is by practice. Start by practicing the meditation. Start small. Don't try to jump to 24/7 meditation. Start with 24 minutes first, then go to 24/7. Okay? If you cannot start with 24 minutes, start with 7 minutes, then 24 minutes. Then you can try and go 24/7. But the point is, start small. Okay? There are 3 zones. One is the comfort zone, one is the stretch zone, and then beyond the stretch zone is panic zone. It's like you try to keep the rubber band, you try to stretch a little bit, but if you stretch too much, it will break. So don't try to stretch too much. Be in the stretch zone. Don't go in the panic zone. Okay? I hope you get the concept. Okay. This was a question. We talked about not offending Krishna's devotees, pure devotees. So I said, one of the question was, does Krishna get offended? I said, Krishna doesn't get offended, but the offensive nature of the offender very soon might end up offending Krishna's devotees. And then Krishna gets really mad. So the question is, I think, related to who is a pure devotee, or what if is it only if we offend a pure devotee, or just a non-pure beginning stage beginner devotee as well, novice? Well, that statement in reality applies to pure devotees. That's correct. But the next question is, how do you know who is a pure devotee and who is a beginner? You don't know that. Nobody has made you the judge, and you don't even have the power to judge. So what if you think, and there are so many devotees, examples are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, that are pure, that are simple people, day-to-day people, ordinary people who are pure devotees. So the best policy is to not offend anyone, because you don't want to make a mistake in judging who is a pure devotee, who is not. Like Maharaj Ambarish. Durvasa Muni offended Maharaj Ambarish. He thought he's a king, and kings are usually not pure devotees. They are busy in politics and all kinds of sensual pleasures. So he thought, let me offend him. But King Ambarish turned out to be a pure devotee. And Durvasa Muni got into a lot of trouble for that. He got into extreme trouble for offending Ambarish Maharaj. So don't take your chances. Okay, there were a couple of more questions which we will take next time. Now I have one last announcement to make, 1 more minute or 2 more minutes, and then we will end. So what we have been talking about, so am I sharing my screen? Yeah. So we have been talking about the Bhagavad Gita, and many times we have used the Srimad Bhagavatam. Here is the Srimad Bhagavatam, and you know it has 12 cantos and all that. Now in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 13 and verse number 13, it says that if on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, and this is actually the month of Bhadra going on right now, if one places the Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift to someone or to yourself, whoever, then that person will attain supreme transcendental destination. Of course, you have to give it with an absolutely pure mind and heart as well. But the simple act of just giving a Bhagavatam set to anybody or to yourself is a very auspicious activity, and it might inspire you to also go read it if it is there on your bookshelf. So this is the month of Bhadra, and in 2 days from now is the full moon day, which is known as Bhadra Purnima. So this, what this verse is saying, this is in the last, very end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, last chapter, one of the last verses. The glories of Srimad Bhagavatam are being described. So if you would like, please try to obtain a set of Srimad Bhagavatam. It contains 18 volumes. It occupies a whole bookshelf. And the price, the temple is giving a discount as well, our ISKCON temple in Portland. Instead of $250 for 18 volumes, so it's 18 big volumes. Each volume is like the Bhagavad Gita itself, as thick and as big as that. So 18 such volumes for $250 minus 10% discount they are giving, so $225. So that is available. You can support the temple in this way by obtaining a Bhagavatam. It will be there in your house. You can read it. Of course, the whole Bhagavatam is available online. So it's available free of cost, but obtaining a paper copy is nice. Plus you will be supporting the temple also. So it is my humble request for those that are inspired to, for those that can, please obtain a set of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is available in many languages, English, Hindi, Spanish, and many other Indian languages, Bengali, Gujarati, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Marathi, and few other languages. So please let me know, or let my wife know, whom you get emails and WhatsApp messages from. And this will be a wonderful thing and very auspicious thing that you can do. So thank you so much. I will end with that. Any other things? And we will see you next Sunday, and we will complete chapter 6. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guru.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
I
Krishna.
have one question.
Yes.
Actually, you are telling donating Bhagavad Gita and Bhadrapada Paurnima, right? It is like what Bhagavad Gita we are having, that book is enough, or different sort of copies are there?
No, so if you want to donate Bhagavad Gitas, we only would like you to donate Srila Prabhupada's, the Bhagavad Gita, which has the translation and commentaries by Srila Prabhupada. Do you have that?
Okay.
Yes. So we can make a whole box available to you at wholesale rate. The retail price is $10. This is probably the one that you all have.
Okay. Yeah.
So a box of 16 is $100.
Okay.
So it comes out to around $8 per copy.
Okay. Okay.
So we can make available a whole box at the wholesale price of $100, which has 16 Bhagavad Gitas.
Okay.
You can distribute it, you can gift it to other people. This is the best gift you can.
Yeah, I can understand. Yeah.
So yes, a box of 16 for $100.
Okay.
And you can
Okay.
let me know, we can make that available also.
Okay. So how can we donate on that particular day? You will donate on our name?
We can donate on your behalf, or we can give you the box and you can gift it to your neighbors, friends, whoever you want. Both are possible.
Because we are not nearby. That is the reason I'm asking you clearly.
No, so if you donate to us, we go on distribution. Yesterday we went out and we were trying to distribute Bhagavad Gita to people just yesterday. So
Okay.
if you sponsor, we can donate to other people, whoever is interested.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Understood. Understood now. Okay.
And you can contact my wife to figure out the details.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.